Introduction. When a woman doesn't truly value you, her actions and behavior reveal it more than her words ever could. One of the most painful realizations for her often comes later, when she finally understands what she lost by not appreciating your presence, your effort, and your loyalty. At first, she may take you for granted, dismiss your worth, or even believe she can easily replace you. But when reality sets in, and she sees that genuine love, respect, and consistency aren't easy to find, it creates a deep emotional wound. This hurt is not about losing just a person. It's about losing the stability, care, and security that came with you. In this discussion, we'll uncover what truly hurts a woman the most when she fails to value the man who once stood by her side. 1. Losing genuine effort. One of the greatest tragedies in any relationship, whether it be romantic, familial, or even professional, is the slow disappearance of genuine effort. Effort is a heartbeat of connection. It is what sustains bonds, nurtures trust, and fuels love. When effort is present, it shows up in small but consistent gestures. Checking in on someone's well-being, making time even when life is busy, listening with presence instead of distraction, and showing appreciation without being asked. These acts may seem small, but they carry profound meaning because they communicate. You matter to me. Losing genuine effort, however, creates silent cracks that often grow into deep fractures. A partner who once brought energy, curiosity, and attention begins to drift into passivity, taking the other for granted. The calls become fewer, the gestures become rarer, and excuses grow longer. The danger is not in grand fights or dramatic conflicts. It is in the quiet neglect, the subtle absence of care, and the unspoken assumption that the other person will always remain without being nourished. Effort is not about perfection, but about consistency. It is a daily investment that strengthens a foundation of trust. Once genuine effort is lost, the relationship begins to feel one-sided, breeding resentment in the person who continues to give without receiving. This imbalance slowly drains love of its vitality, turning what was once warm into cold routine. The lesson is simple yet often overlooked. Effort must never be conditional, convenient, or performative. Real effort is born from love, respect, and a desire to protect the bond. When someone stops trying, it is not simply a matter of being busy. It is a reflection of priorities. If you stop watering a plant, no matter how beautiful it once was, it will eventually wither. Likewise, relationships collapse when genuine effort disappears. To preserve what matters, one must remain intentional, choosing to show up even when it is inconvenient, choosing to communicate even when it is difficult, and choosing to nurture even when it feels unnecessary. Effort is love in action, and losing it is the fastest way to lose everything. Therefore, the lesson we must carry is this: never take effort lightly, never stop investing in those you care for, and never allow complacency to replace presence. Genuine effort is not about grand gestures. It is about the small, consistent choices that say, I still choose you every day. 2. The absence of emotional security. The absence of emotional security is one of the most silent yet destructive forces in human relationships and personal well-being. Emotional security is a feeling of safety, trust, and stability that allows a person to express themselves freely without fear of abandonment, betrayal, or ridicule. When this sense of grounding is missing, people often live in a constant state of unease, doubt, and tension. In relationships, the lack of emotional security can manifest as jealousy, possessiveness, or a desperate need for validation because one partner never feels fully assured of the other's loyalty or love. This creates a cycle of overthinking and overcompensation, where instead of experiencing intimacy, the relationship becomes a battleground of suspicion and defense mechanisms. For the individual, the absence of emotional security often stems from childhood wounds, broken trust, or unresolved traumas that weaken their ability to believe they are worthy of love, respect, and consistency. This insecurity may show up as fear of being left, difficulty setting boundaries, or attaching too quickly to people who show temporary affection. Over time, the psychological toll is heavy. It breeds anxiety, depression, and even physical stress responses that erode one's quality of life. Spiritually, it distances a person from their inner peace, because when your sense of worth depends on the unpredictable actions of others, you remain enslaved to external validation. True healing begins with cultivating inner stability. learning to trust yourself, to validate your own emotions, and to build a strong foundation of self-respect. By practicing mindfulness, self-awareness, and boundaries, a person can slowly reconstruct the emotional scaffolding that insecurity tore down. Relationships also heal when both partners commit to open communication, reassurance, and consistency. But even more importantly, when each individual works to strengthen their inner resilience. The lesson here is clear. The absence of emotional security is not just a relational problem. It is a personal wound that demands attention. Ignoring it only leads to cycles of fear and dependency, but addressing it leads to growth, freedom, and healthier connections. To live without emotional security is to constantly anticipate loss, but to build it within yourself is to stand unshaken no matter what storms may come. 3. Regret of taking you for granted. The regret of taking someone for granted is one of the most powerful and painful realizations a person can face. At first, when someone is consistently present, loving, and supportive, it's easy to assume they will always remain there, no matter how we treat them. Comfort breeds carelessness, and familiarity can dull appreciation. Often, people fail to express gratitude or reciprocate the effort of the one who constantly shows up, thinking that their patience and loyalty are infinite. But life has a way of teaching lessons through absence. When the person who once gave their time, energy, and love finally pulls away, the emptiness left behind becomes undeniable. This is when regret sets in. It's not just the loss of the individual, but the loss of opportunities. Every thank you left unsaid, every hug not given, every moment of connection neglected. Regret gnaws at the mind because it reminds us that appreciation is best expressed in the present, not in hindsight. The person who once seemed ordinary suddenly appears extraordinary in memory, and what was once taken for granted now feels priceless. This lesson teaches us to cherish people while they are still within reach. Relationships, whether romantic, familial, or platonic, are living bonds that require nurturing, acknowledgement, and care. The regret of losing someone because of neglect should remind us to practice mindfulness in love and presence. Never assume someone's loyalty is permanent. Respect, gratitude, and recognition are what sustain bonds. In the end, regret teaches us what appreciation could have prevented, that the most painful words to carry are, "I didn't realize what I had until it was gone." For discovering you moved on. Life has a quiet way of showing us when we've finally healed, when the weight of the past no longer presses on our chest, and the wounds no longer sting at the mention of someone's name. Discovering you've moved on is rarely a dramatic moment. It often arrives softly, almost unnoticed, like a sunrise creeping in after a long night. You catch yourself laughing freely without the shadows of old pain, where you realize that the person who once occupied your every thought is no longer the center of your inner world. Moving on is not about forgetting someone or pretending the past never existed. It's about reclaiming your power, your joy, and your sense of self. The lesson in discovering you moved on lies in the recognition that healing is not about time alone, but about growth, acceptance, and a willingness to release what no longer serves you. At first, the heart clings to memories, replaying moments as if they were sacred recordings. We imagine different endings, different choices, and sometimes even hold on to hope of reconciliation. But as you evolve, you begin to see the relationship for what it was, not what you wanted it to be. You understand that pain was a teacher, not a prison. When you moved on, you no longer chase closure from someone else. You create closure within yourself by deciding to let peace replace bitterness. You recognize that love does not diminish when it ends. Instead, it reshapes itself into wisdom, teaching you about your needs, your boundaries, and your resilience. Discovering you've moved on is also realizing you don't define yourself by who walked away or who couldn't stay. You find strength in knowing that your worth was never tied to their validation. It's the freedom of scrolling past their name without your heart racing, the calmness in seeing them happy with someone else without resentment, the ease in knowing that their chapter in your story was complete. True moving on is not indifference, but a deeper form of compassion for them, for yourself, and for the journey that shaped you both. It's the ability to bless the past without being bound by it, to carry forward the lessons without carrying the hurt. The greatest gift in moving on is rediscovering yourself, the passions you set aside, the dreams you postponed, the parts of you that were hidden behind the shadow of attachment. You learn that solitude is not emptiness, but a space for self-discovery and renewal. The lesson is clear. You cannot control who stays or who leaves, but you can always choose how you heal, how you grow, and how you rise. And when you realize you've moved on, you will notice it feels less like a victory over someone else and more like a reunion with yourself. That is a quiet, powerful truth. You never truly lost anything. You only gained a stronger, freer version of you. 5. Realizing true love was rare. One of the most profound lessons a person can come to understand in life is the realization that true love is rare. In a world where people often confuse attraction with love, convenience with commitment, or lust with genuine care, it becomes increasingly clear that authentic love is not something that comes around every day. True love is not simply about strong feelings or fleeting emotions. It is about a deep connection that withstands the test of time, hardship, and change. Many spend years chasing illusions of love, mistaking intensity for intimacy and passion for permanence. Yet, over time, one begins to see that true love reveals itself in quiet constancy rather than dramatic expressions. It is found in the person who shows up, who chooses you consistently, not just when it's easy or beneficial. The rarity of such love teaches humility and gratitude, for it cannot be forced, manipulated, or fabricated. It must be nurtured and reciprocated by two souls who truly recognize each other's worth. This realization can be both sobering and liberating. Sobering, because it means that many relationships we enter may not be built on a foundation of real love, but on convenience, fear of loneliness, or superficial desire. Liberating, because once we see the truth, we stop wasting time on what is shallow and start valuing what is genuine. We understand that love is not measured in words alone, but in actions, sacrifices, and mutual growth. True love challenges us to rise above selfishness, to care for another's well-being as much as our own, and to commit even when the excitement fades. When you realize how rare it is, you stop taking it for granted. You stop believing that every connection is destined to be forever, and you begin to treat love with reverence rather than entitlement. This lesson also teaches patience, because rushing into relationships out of desperation often blinds us to the truth of whether love is real. When you finally encounter genuine love, it feels different, calmer, steadier, and far more secure than the chaotic highs of infatuation. Real love doesn't need to constantly prove itself, because its strength lies in quiet loyalty and unwavering respect. Recognizing its rarity helps us not only to cherish it when it comes, but also to refine our understanding of what we truly deserve. We learn that it is better to wait for love that is rare and real than to settle for what is common and fragile. In the end, this awareness becomes a guide for both the heart and the soul, teaching us to live with discernment, to love with wisdom, and to never underestimate the profound gift of finding and being found by true love. 6. Watching you become better without her. There comes a time in every man's life when loss or rejection feels like the end of the world. Whether at a breakup, being abandoned, or realizing she didn't value you, the sting cuts deep. But what she never expects is that her absence becomes the very fuel for your growth. Watching you become better without her is one of the most powerful silent lessons you can give. Not through words, but through transformation. Instead of begging for her attention or drowning in bitterness, you redirect that pain into progress. You start working on your body, sharpening your mind, improving your finances, and cultivating inner peace. Suddenly, the man she once overlooked is no longer the same man she left behind. And here's the beauty. You're not doing it for her. You're doing it for yourself. Growth after loss teaches you the art of detachment and the strength of self-reliance. It shows you that happiness is not found in clinging to someone who chose to walk away, but in building a life so fulfilling that her presence or absence no longer defines your worth. When she sees your glow up, when she notices the discipline in your habits, the confidence in your voice, and the calmness in your demeanor, it silently reminds her of what she gave up. She may not admit it, but deep down, she feels a weight of regret, because nothing hits harder than realizing someone became everything you once wanted without needing you. And for you, that's the ultimate freedom. You've proven to yourself that rejection is not destruction, but redirection. The lesson here is clear. Never waste your energy convincing someone to see your value. Instead, invest that energy into becoming undeniable. Life rewards those who turn heartbreak into motivation, and success is the sweetest revenge, not because it hurts her, but because it heals you. In the end, becoming better without her isn't about showing off or seeking validation. It's about reclaiming your power, rewriting your story, and walking into a future where you thrive regardless of who stays or leaves. True strength is not chasing someone who doesn't appreciate you. It's becoming the man you were meant to be, with or without her. 7. Knowing replacement isn't easy. Life has a way of teaching us difficult truths, and one of the hardest lessons to accept is the reality of being replaced. Whether in relationships, friendships, or professional spaces, the thought that someone else can take our place often triggers deep emotions of insecurity, fear, and rejection. Knowing replacement isn't easy because it strikes directly at our sense of worth and identity. We like to believe we are irreplaceable, that the love we give, the efforts we make, and the value we bring set us apart in a way that no one else can replicate. Yet the truth is, in a world full of choices and constant change, people often move on, and situations shift in ways we cannot control. This doesn't mean we have no value. Rather, it means life doesn't pause for anyone. Relationships end. Employers find someone else for the role, and people we once thought would never let go sometimes choose a different path. The difficulty lies not only in the pain of being replaced, but in the ego's refusal to let go of the attachment. It feels like a wound to the heart and pride, leaving us wondering if we were ever enough. But hidden within this painful truth is a profound lesson. Our worth cannot and should not be measured solely by whether we are chosen or kept by others. Replacement is part of life's impermanence. It reminds us that nothing is guaranteed, and holding too tightly to people or positions creates suffering when change inevitably comes. The challenge, then, is to develop inner strength and a secure sense of self that does not crumble when someone else steps into a role we once filled. Instead of dwelling on the sting of being replaced, we can choose to see it as an opportunity for growth, self-reflection, and redirection. Sometimes, being replaced is not a reflection of our inadequacy, but rather a sign that we are meant to evolve into something greater, that our chapter in a particular story has ended, and a new one is waiting to be written. The lesson is not about denying the pain. It is real and must be acknowledged, but about rising from it with dignity, understanding that true value is not proven by external validation, but by the character, resilience, and purpose we live by. Knowing replacement isn't easy because it tests our ability to detach, to accept loss, and to redefine ourselves beyond roles others assign us. But when we learn to accept this truth, we free ourselves from clinging to what no longer serves us and discover a deeper strength that can never be replaced. The authenticity of being who we are with or without the approval or recognition of others.